الرجيم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي واجعل لي وزيرا من أهلي ربي يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير وبك نستعين يا فتاح ربي زدني علما ربي هب لي حكما وألحقني بالصالحين ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار يا أول الأولين يا آخر الآخرين يا ذا القوة المتين يا رحم المساكين يا أرحم الراحمين حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل اللهم إنا نجعلك في نحورهم ونعوذ بك من شرورهم اللهم منزل الكتاب سريع الحساب اهزم الأحزاب اللهم اهزمهم وزلزلهم آمين يا أرحم الراحمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Once again, Alhamdulillah, by the grace and tawfiq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by His inspiration and by His giving us an opportunity, today we are going to talk about ayat number 139 and 140 from the third surah of the Quran, Surah Al Imran. So we'll go over the recitation and the meaning first. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
ولا تهنوا ولا تحزنوا وأنتم الأعلون إن كنتم مؤمنين.
So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, and we are continuing with the passage where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is addressing the believers. And this is what is happening from ayah number 121 onwards, roughly. We started talking about the Battle of Uhud, and we started from the very beginning. And when they were starting out in the morning and what happened and everything. So, and now we are continuing with that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about to the believers after the Battle of Uhud. Wala, wa is and, la, do not, wala, and do not. Tahinu. Tahinu comes from waw, ha, and noon, wahan. And wahan means some kind of weakness, weakness in action, weakness in thoughts. It could mean a physical weakness, or it could mean a moral weakness. It could mean laziness. And in Arabic language, they say that a man has wahan when his body or his muscles have become very weak. Right? Like Zakaria alayhi salam later on in the Quran, he says that about his bones, that his bones have become very weak, like he's become very old, extremely old, and now the bones are like becoming weak from inside, and he doesn't have the kind of strength that he used to have. So when something loses its strength from the inside, then it's called wahan. Like for the birds, like when a bird, it is used for birds in Arabic language, linguistically speaking, that when a bird eats something and the bird gets sick, and it gets so sick that it can't fly right now. It can't fly anymore. So the bird is said to be experiencing wahan, meaning it has an ability. It had an ability, but it has lost its ability because of what used to be an ability, what used to be a capability on the inside has now become soft, has now become like weak and everything, and so weak that it can break. Like the word is also used another place in the Quran for the spider's web. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses this word in another connotation for the spider's web, that the web of a spider is so weak that it can break. The house of the spider, the web, it's so weak that it can break very easily. So it refers to weakness. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, wala tahinu, and do not weaken, wala tahzanu, and do not have huzn, do not grieve. And huzn means like when somebody loses something that is very dear to them and something that they really like and love and everything, and by losing that, the sensation that happens in the heart, the feeling of loss, the feeling of pain, the feeling of sadness that happens in the heart because of that is called huzn. And huzun in Arabic is used for mountains as well. So anything that has toughness in it, it has rigidness in it, it has discomfort in it, right? So that will be called huzn. Like for example, sadness, defeatism, feeling hopeless, feeling angry and resentment towards one's own self, right? And it's basically a score of negative emotions, right? So they are called huzn, right? So and it's used for typically for grief and sadness in that sense. So Allah Ta'ala is saying, wala tahinu wala tahzanu, and do not weaken and do not grieve. Wa antum, wa and antum, all of you. All right. So antum is a plural for you, like all of you. Wa antumul a'launa. A'launa from being ala is to be superior, right? So Al-a'launa means all of you will be high, meaning all of you will be superior. In kuntum, if, like there's an if here, you will be superior in if kuntum, all of you are mu'mineen, all of you have iman, all of you have belief, you are believers. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying, and do not lose heart and do not grieve. You are the uppermost if you are believers. And we'll see the context in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that in a little bit. And ayah number 140. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
إن يمسسكم قرح فقد مس القوم قرح مثله وتلك الأيام نداولها بين الناس وليعلم الله الذين آمنوا ويتخذ منكم شهداء والله لا يحب الظالمين.
In if yamsaskum comes from meme, seen, and seen. Mas is like when even when you do wudu, for example, the ritual cleaning that we do before we pray our prayers. In the wudu, we touch our heads with, like we have in between, we have our wet hands, and we go over our head. We just touch all over our head with that, and while cleaning ourselves for the prayer, and so that's called a masa. Right, the same roots, mas. So something touches something. If touched you, karhun, a wound, something has afflicted you, a wound has touched you, faqad, then certainly, massa has touched, the same root, mas has touched, al qawma, to the people. Qawm is used for a group of people or a nation, like a people. And here it is referring to the group of people, meaning the group of enemies that were there in the Battle of Uhud. So the enemies which were there to the believers. So, and referring to the mushrikeen in Makkah who had come to fight them in the Battle of Uhud, the group of rivals or the enemy. So then has touched al qawma, to the people, qarhun, a wound, mithluhu, mithal is something that is similar, to something else. So if a wound has touched you, then a similar wound has touched to the other side as well, right? Watilka, and these, al-ayyam. Ayyam is a plural of yawm, and yawm means a day, ayyam means days. So, and these are the days, nudawiluha, like we alternate them, bainan nasi, amongst people. We alternate them amongst people, meaning good and bad, hardship and ease. They alternate in people. Waliya alama, so that, wow here is, wow is usually and, but here it will be more appropriate to say so that. So that, waliya alama, so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so that makes evident, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes evident, alladhina, those who, amanu, those who believed, wayattakhidh, and take, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take, minkum, from you, shuhada, the martyrs. So that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, why is all this happening? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us the reasons in this ayah, and also he will continue in the ayah number 141, which we'll do next time. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make evident through this those who believe, and he will take from amongst you martyrs, the shuhada, those people who will give up their lives for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his cause. Wallahu, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, la yuhibbu, he does not love, al-zalimin, the wrongdoers. Allahumma la tajalna minhum, Allah ta'ala not make us of the zalimun. So here in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that if you have received a wound, then they have received a similar wound as well. Such days we rotate amongst people so that Allah may know those who believe, and let some of you be martyrs. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not like the unjust people. So we'll go in a little bit more detail now. In ayah 139, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the believers, do not weaken and do not grieve, and you will be superior if you are believers. So what is happening, what is the context in which this is happening? In the Battle of Uhud, after the Battle of Uhud, we know all the losses that the believers went through. And after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to the believers with a lot of love and a lot of compassion, right? And he's inviting them, he's telling them that, okay, whatever happened has happened. Now you need to move ahead. Now you need to move ahead, right? And although the context is the Battle of Uhud, but the lesson is timeless, because each one of us will have our own uhuds in our own life. We will have matters, we'll have times that will happen in our own life. So the message is universal for all times, right? So one thing is, another thing here is what's happening is there is a consolation coming for the believers, for the Muslims of that time from the heavens directly, right? Because what is the Quran at that time? How was the Quran revealed? Some incident would happen and some part of Quran would be revealed, and then another part of Quran would be revealed, and the Prophet ﷺ would tell his scribes that, okay, put this verse here in this chapter, put this verse in that chapter. So there's two things about the Quran. One thing was the how it was revealed, the order in which how it was revealed at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because they had a mission at hand, right? They had to, re-establish the legacy of Ibrahim alayhi salam, for which he had built the Kaaba, the worship of one God alone, which people had over the years changed, and they were worshiping idols there. They were worshiping all sorts of things there. They were doing a lot of practices there which were not correct. And the Prophet ﷺ's mission and the Muslims' mission at that time was to restore it back to its original purpose and everything, and to spread faith, to talk about faith, and to give the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to people around the world, right? So they were in that mission, they were doing that, and the ayat will be revealed at different times in the seerah, in the different times when something would happen, an incident would happen, and then some verse would be revealed, and it would help us understand that verse better. And then the other order is, after this whole mission is complete, the ayat will come, and the Prophet ﷺ had put them, and now we have it in a different order, because now Quran is a guidance, timeless guidance for all people, for all times. Now this is for all of us, for all times, right? So there is a message at that time, and there's a message for us. It's both the things that happen in the Quran, subhanallah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here is telling us that he's telling us one principle for which is going to be there forever, right? That yes, there are going to be ups and downs in life, which will always going to happen, but there will be one group of people will always be victorious in the end. And who will be those people? There'll be those people with iman, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving consolation to people who are defeated, who are feeling very low at that time. What's happening is they have lost so much. They have incurred, so many people have died and been brutally killed. Not just killed, but like they've been like their bodies have been mutilated after being killed and all that stuff. And so it's, yeah, and very close family members have died. There's no family in which there is no crying, and there's no like nobody's grieving. Every family has somebody that they're grieving for, right? The whole city has somebody that they're grieving for. So it's pretty intense at that time. They have lost a lot of people. A lot of people got injured. Everybody else is injured. You can see things on like their body. They like think their cuts and wounds and everything. And morally also, they're very like they had a very high morale at the time with which they had gone into the battle, because the previous battle was the Battle of Badr, which was 1 year ago, in which they had been miraculously victorious. Like literally help had come from the heavens. And so now they had, so it's almost like when somebody is used to being the topper of the class, let's say they always get gold medals, they are always like the first in the class, they always have the highest marks and everything. Now when this person all of a sudden fails an exam, or one of their family members struggles with passing the exam, right? Then it becomes really hard for that person to take, because it's like you are at a high, and now you're so like all of a sudden you're like, okay, what just happened, right? All of a sudden something's happened. So it can have an effect of demoralizing somebody, right? So what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is doing now is he is telling the believers, wala tahinu, and do not become weak, right? Do not have a weakness in your actions or thoughts. Do not have a physical or moral weakness inside you. Do not become like weak on the inside like that. And wala tahzanu, and do not become sad, right? Do not have like this do not have this negative outlook. Do not let this negativity become your outlook towards life, right? You are going to be shaken up in the battle, and you are shaken up on the inside, right? But there are, like we said, there are three different kinds of battles that are happening at the moment in the context of Uhud, what had happened that time. There's one battle with the enemy that is happening. There's one battle within the Muslim community, because there are some people who are genuine believers, And there are some people who are hypocrites. They just say they are believers, but they're actually not, right? They have they're engaging in conspiracies and everything. They're believers on the face, but they're double-faced people. They're cheating the other people. They're trying to harm the believers, pretending to be believers, but harming their aim is to harm the believers, right? So there's a battle inside which obviously cannot be fought, but it's like, okay, you have to be on your guard all the time. You don't know who's genuine, you don't know who's not, so you have to be careful. You have to literally like be walking on eggshells all the time, sort of a thing. And the third battle is the battle inside, when a person's shaken up on the inside, and about the battle in the heart of each and every person. So what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us in this ayah is about that battle. Don't lose this one. This one inside, don't lose that one, right? So there's a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to the effect of, which was narrated by Thawban radiallahu anhu, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "The people will soon summon one another to attack you, as people when eating invite others to share their dish." Right? So let's just pause here. The Prophet ﷺ told us that a time will come. He was telling the believers, and this is not at this time, but we are trying to understand the word wahan here, because in this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned the word wahan. So just to understand it better. So he, in a hadith at another time that he said, when he was telling about the future, what is going to happen to my ummah in the future, he said, a time will come when people will summon one another. People of the world, the leaders of the world, they will call one another to attack you guys, to attack all of you believers, just like people invite each other while they're sharing a dish. Like when somebody has a dish and they say, okay, come over, eat from this, right? Similarly, people of the world will call each other, come, you also attack them, like, come, you also attack them, you also, like, okay, take a part in this, like, this killing, this torturing, this thing is like we are astaghfirullah, like we are they are doing this, and they'll call other people, okay, come, you also take part in it, or okay, your people can also come and join our army to hit them, to attack them, to oppress them, or anything, right? So the Prophet ﷺ said, such a time will come. They will invite each other. People of the world they will summon each other to attack you. And then one of the Sahabas asked, he asked, Ya Rasulullah, will that be because how will that be? Will that be because will be very few in number? Is that the case? Will it be because of this? And the Prophet ﷺ replied, no. Actually, you'll be very numerous at that time. You'll be big in number. You'll be many of you, but you will be like the scum and rubbish like that is carried by a torrent. Meaning you will be like the froth and scum that rises above the flood waters. Like when we go to an ocean and when we see huge waves, what happens is, like with the huge waves, there is this actual wave which starts from actually underneath the water, and that wave has a lot of power, it moves and everything, but right on the top of the wave there's a lot of like froth, and there's a lot of like foam and froth and things like that, and that actually has no power. It just like blows with the wind here and there, and it blows with the wave or the wind, but it itself, it seems like a lot more than the wave, but it actually is nothing. There's no power. It just gets carried here and there by the torment. So the Prophet ﷺ is saying that you'll be a lot in number, but you will be like this froth and scum that rises above the flood waters, and it gets carried by the torment here and there. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take the fear of you out from the breasts of your enemy, right? And he will and there will be put wahan into your hearts. So somebody asked, Ya Rasulullah, what is wahan? Right? What is wahan that will be put in our own hearts, and our fear, our rob, our like people will not even think before attacking us that there'll be any consequences to this. People will think they can get away with doing whatever, that they have like impunity to do whatever, they can get away with whatever, and nobody will hold them accountable for anything, right? Their whole like thing will go away. So somebody asked, like, Ya Rasulullah, what is wahan? And the Prophet ﷺ replied, wahan is love of the world and dislike for death. Love of the world and dislike for death, right? And so wahan is a weakness in resolve. like a weakness in morale, and it becomes like cowardice on the inside when people become cowards on the inside. And this leads to what that leads to is, because there's cowardness on the cowardice on the inside, what happens is the person is unable to do any good actions, or like take any action, or be able to do anything, because they're just so weak inside that they're not able to do anything on the outside. Like it takes away all their power and everything. And in turn, and if you go behind this cowardice, behind this weakness of resolve, what is actually feeding this? It's actually the love of worldly life, the love of the pleasures of the world. That I don't want to give up this. Like my bed is so comfortable. I have like all these brands that I'm using, and I have all these, like my life is, I've got a house in like one of the sought after neighborhoods in the world, and I have like this prime real estate property and everything, and I have this like connections, and I have this like thing going on for me. I've got these good cars, and I've got this thing and this thing and this thing and this profession and this like thing and everything, and I don't want to give any of this up. If I stand up for a cause and stand up for people who are oppressed, which nobody is standing up for, all the big high people are not standing up for them, and if I speak for them, then I would have consequences, right? Would I be like in the random checks at the airport? Would I be pulled up again and again more? I don't want to go through those inconveniences. So why should I stand up? Why should I do some things like this, right? So there's a lot of love of worldly life, and there is a dislike for death, right? When you're like, okay, this life becomes, when and why does somebody dislike death? When this life becomes everything for somebody, when this life and its pleasures become like, okay, there's nothing more to look forward to, right? Because what we learn in our deen is like, this life is actually the lower life. What we're getting after, inshallah, inshallah, may Allah make us of the people of paradise. The people of paradise, this life is a test. And the people of paradise, what they're going to get, this life would be nothing in comparison. So for a believer, this life is like a prison. They're like, okay, so yes, nobody likes dying. Nobody likes to, we never wish for dying. We never wish for harm for ourselves. Islam never teaches us to wish for harm upon ourselves. But even when somebody gets closer to that death and is passing, and they've lived their life righteously, they've lived their life in obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in trying their best. Yes, we all do mistakes, but they've been trying their best to get closer to God and everything. Then at the time of that, they're happy that, okay, they're going to me. Yes, there is pain and everything, but they're happy that they have something to look forward to. They're hoping, and they're hoping for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be pleased with them. They're hoping to meet God and to know, Ya Allah, I never saw you, but I was living my life to please you. Ya Allah, I was trying to do whatever I could to please you so that you would be pleased with me, Ya Rab. Allahumma ja'alna minhum. May Allah Ta'ala make us of them, right? So what happens is, when this love of life increases and the dislike of death happens naturally, it stops one from striving from the path of truth, because it's like you are like so attached to these things that you have, or these pleasures, or these things that you have, that you're like, this is everything for you. And when it's everything for somebody, then they don't want to do anything. They don't want to be in the bad books of the rich and powerful people, right? Because that would harm them, right? So they don't want to lose any of that. So unfortunately, it seems we see a lot of that today, like the love of dunya. And like instead of preparing for the death, people are trying to avoid death as if they could, right? Like people are trying to stay away from it. Like if you look at the obsession nowadays of trying to look young, like everybody wants to look in their 20s. Everybody wants to look like they might have become like in their 50s or their 60s or their 70s even, but they want to look like they're in their 20s. They want to look young, as if just by looking young, your body will keep up with that young look. You will have digestive issues. You'll have like we'll have all kinds of issues as we grow up and grow older, right? The body doesn't stay the same as it was in your 20s. After somebody gets to their 30, 35, then now the downward cycle starts. Like they say that our life begins as a child who cannot take care of themselves, who cannot basically, they need somebody to take care of them even for their basic needs. And as we grow older and older and older and older, it goes back to that stage when you lose your memory a little bit, you can't remember things that well, and you can't do things that well, you need help with little things, right? So we cannot avoid that cycle. But when somebody loves this world so much, then they try to avoid that rather than preparing for that. So what has happened in this case? What is happening? 70 people have died. Many have been hurt or injured in the Battle of Uhud. The Prophet ﷺ's own teeth has been martyred, like he has been hurt on his face. And now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching it, despite all the demoralization that they're going through after this big success of Badr, and now they're experiencing this defeat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching the Muslims a beautiful lesson that, you know what has happened in the journey of life. Now look ahead. Don't keep looking back. Like even when we're driving a car, the windscreen is big, but the rear view mirror is small, much smaller, right? Because yes, we need to look at the rear view mirror once in a while, but we need to look ahead much more. And our vision for ahead should be much bigger, right? Yes, what has happened, we should keep being aware of it and everything, but we should look ahead, right? So, for example, somebody gets widowed, somebody is divorced, there has been some fight, there has been something going on. If we keep looking at the past, then we cannot go ahead, right? Some people live in the past so much, like the day I was married, like 2 days after this had happened. Now it's been like 20 years after marriage, and they're still like, okay, you were like this time and everything, you did this and everything, and they're just still okay, it happened, like okay, just keep it aside, now move on with life, right? Like what Allah Ta'ala is saying is, don't get stuck in a certain position, right? Don't let this defeat that you experienced in Uhud demoralize you or break your spirit or disappoint you. And don't be discouraged, and don't grieve over the loss that you have suffered so much that and again, another thing here is that it is natural to feel defeat, right? Like Allah SWT is not saying that uh, in language, it's not like language is not always like black and white, in the sense that it's not a prohibition that okay, it's haram to be sad, or you cannot be sad ever again, or you can never feel weak ever again, or you cannot feel like sad, like somebody has died, some people have died, some loss has happened, and it is painful. Yes, you will be sad. It's not like you okay, Allah SWT saying don't be sad, okay, 1 2 3, okay, now I'm not sad. It's not a switch inside. The heart is not a switch, right? But what Allah Ta'ala is teaching us is that, for example, like a few ayat before, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us that suppress your anger. He didn't say don't be angry at all, right? He said suppress your anger, meaning we cannot just magically erase our emotions, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us to control and to channel them, right? So don't be weak here. It means that don't let your weakness consume you so that you act as if you're already defeated, right? And nor that don't feel weak and powerless inside. You will feel a little bit, yes, of course, but don't let that weakness or powerlessness define you. Like this is not who you are, right? It's just something you're experiencing. Like for example, let's say a child's like and again it's a silly example, but let's say two children are playing a video game, and one is like winning, the other person's like losing, and then one time this person who was losing wins, and the person who was winning loses, and the person who just won says to the other, oh, you're a loser, like, and everything. And so yes, it hurts, yes, it is difficult, but this person is not a loser, right? Like it's just they've lost once, right? So yes, so what Allah Ta'ala is teaching, and again, it's a silly example, but examples help us to understand the concept better, right? So yes, this defeat, this thing that has happened, what is happening, it hurts, and yes, it's difficult, but pull yourself back together, toughen up, and get up, right? Like don't stay in that zone. Like don't let that be like okay, this is all that's happening now, or this is all that is going to happen. No doubt, Uhud was a big loss. It was loss of power in the region. All this image, this thing that had been built for the Muslims before after Badr is they are experiencing some loss there, even in terms of how other tribes view them as, right? But now a leadership lesson is being given to them by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and by extension to all of us, right? So for example, another example is that at a home, let's say, some things happen with a child, or some, like let's say a child didn't pass an exam. They were working so hard for an exam or something, or they did some mistake while that they didn't attempt a certain question, or they didn't do that or something. Some problem happened, and it didn't work out or something. Now, when they come home or something, there are two approaches that a parent can take, right? One is you can keep making sarcastic comment and gloominess or something. Or let's say even a child got hurt somewhere, like the child was running or something, and they should have seen a bit more when they're walking, but they fell down and they got hurt. And let's say some a mother can behave like that, that while she's putting the bandage or anything, she can be angry that, okay, I told you not to play there. Why do you keep playing there? That like you will, I told you will get hurt. Look, see what happened? You've got this, right? So a mother could do that, right? But what is she doing by saying and doing like that? She's breaking, yes, the child's confidence is already broken. They're already hurt, but this will break their confidence even further, right? So what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is doing is teaching us here is وَلَا تَهِنُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا. Like, okay, this has happened, but it has happened. It's done now, right? You cannot change what has happened. So, okay, now let it be, right? Like, don't, and he's, subhanAllah, there's so much positivity in it, right? So, and also don't start about like anxieties about the future. Okay, oh my god, what will this happen? Oh my god, I had this loss in business, what will happen now? How will my children eat? And how will I keep my house? And how will Shaitan loves to do that to us. Shaitan loves to take us into a downward spiral anytime something negative happens, right? And then he would like to, he loves to take us into the down. Okay, this will lead to this, will lead to this, this will lead to this. Oh my god, how will this happen? And things have not even happened that much, but he keeps us down this, like, when will this happen? How will that happen, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, on the other hand, he's teaching us, leave all these sadness, anxieties about the past and the future, and stay in the moment. Stay in the moment. And yes, you're experiencing um, whatever you're experiencing, but you have to toughen up. You have to get up. Don't let it drain you out. Because when we are extremely sad about something, what happens is it drains the energy out of us. Like it takes out all the energy from us. We are not able to do anything then, right? So it's a natural human response to experience weakness and sadness at times, but don't stay in it for long, because what's the danger if you stay in it? If the believers stay in that, then Muslims might become weak later, and they have a lot of things to do after, right? They have big mission in front of them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us to take lessons from the mistake of past and increase our levels of iman, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will again give victory, right? So if you're faced with a defeat temporarily, and and that too because like there were some errors that were committed, the errors that were done, right? Then it is not proper to be affected by it to such an extent that you're unable to do anything now, and you make your morale high and believe in the fight of Islam, believe in the cause, because the cause is much bigger than what just you're feeling in the few moments, or some losses that the cause is much bigger than that. You have to understand that the cause is much bigger. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then tells us what the real cause is and everything. What he tells us is the universal law he's giving us. Wa antumul a'laun in kuntum mu'minin. That why, when do people become victorious? When they have iman, when they have belief. Because iman is, don't fret over this weapons or that weapon, that you lost all these weapons in the war and people took all your weapons. You could not get any war booty, and these people took all your weapons, all your wealth, and everything, because the weapon of belief, that is that is heavier than any other weapon. Like the strength of iman is much more than any other strength, right? And if you have that strength, then you will be victorious, right? Because how is it possible that a group of people who are faithful, they stake their lives and wealth in the company of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and in the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yet they don't get any help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? This is not possible, right? This is not possible. Doesn't make any sense. History is a witness that this promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that when people are believers, then they are superior and Allah's help comes to them, right? This has proven to be correct, and it is fulfilled, right? This is fulfilled. He has, if you look at, for example, Musa alayhi salam, the story of Musa alayhi salam, when Musa alayhi salam was afraid to go to Pharaoh. Pharaoh is the superpower of that time. Musa alayhi salam has who with him? Does he have any army? Does he have anything? No, just him and his brother. Two people, and him who has, like, they literally have like the shoot at sight orders for him. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells him, you have to go inside the White House of that time. You have to go inside the Pharaoh's palace and tell him on his face that he is not the Rabb. Allah is the Rabb, and tell him to return all these thousands of the children of Israel, and let them leave from Egypt with him, whom the Pharaoh had taken as slaves, and he was making them do all the slave work and everything. So these thousands upon thousands of people. So it's a big mission and everything, and it's like literally sounds like suicide going there and everything. But Allah, what did Allah Ta'ala says to Musa alayhi salam? Kulna la takhaf innaka antal a'la. The same word, like alaun here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the believers. Here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to Musa alayhi salam, fear not, indeed it is you who will be superior, O Musa, O Moses. Indeed, it is you who will be superior. Just don't fear. Go. You're going in my cause. I'm with you. Go. Right? And here, the followers of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Sahabas are being told, wa antumul alaun. You will be the you will be superior if you have iman, right? So some scholars say that, as a side point, some scholars say that this is such a testimony to the high ranks of the sahabas, that the way in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addressed a prophet, Musa alayhi salam, a very high prophet, Musa alayhi salam, he addressed the sahabas in a similar way, the companions of the prophet in a similar way, right? May Allah ta'ala grant us all of their company in Jannatul Firdaus. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Right? So, and this ayah came, and what happened? What was the impact on the believers? With this call of the Quran, the broken hearts started throbbing again. Their bodies, which are sullen and like low and everything, they started to glow with the fresh spirit, right? And words are very powerful. Like what our deen teaches us, words have a lot of power. Words have a lot of power, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala groomed the people carrying his message through this. He's grooming the people so beautifully. He's grooming the people. It's not, Quran is not, doesn't just tell us do's and don'ts. Like, okay, after the battle of Uhud finished, what if people like us would be there, what we would do is, okay, there were some laws that happened, something wrong that happened. Okay, what are the do's and don'ts? Okay, we did this wrong, we did this wrong, we did this wrong, we did this right, this right, this right. So now we have to do this. Tuck, 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 tuck. We'll have a list of this has to be done, this has not to be done, and we have to do it like this, right? And okay, now everybody needs to follow this. This is the protocol. This is this, right? So we are very like dry, and we could be very like, and this is like our human weakness. It's not to put ourselves down, but Allah Ta'ala teaches us a better way, right? He's teaching us how to do islah, how to do tarbiyah, how to impact hearts and minds. Allah Ta'ala is impacting our hearts and minds, and he's teaching us how to impact other hearts and minds. Like, don't just, Allah Ta'ala is not just giving us do's and don'ts, right? He is he's telling us first that supremacy and glory can be achieved through one and own basic source, that is having faith and fulfilling its demands. And then if you look at this whole passage of Uhud, what is he doing? We started with ayah 121, 122 about how the day of Uhud started. Like, you were out in the early morning, O Prophet, you were arranging the ranks of people before going, and you were doing this and everything. And then he gives some, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives some lessons in the middle. Then he talks about, okay, what happened? And then he talks some other lesson. And then now this is, okay, looking ahead. This is about future now. Okay, what has happened has happened. Now, what should you do going forward? And then after some time, we'll go back again. And Allah Ta'ala will tell us some more lessons again. So every step, he's breaking up things, and then he's giving us little bite-sized lessons at the same time, right? So the way Allah Ta'ala is teaching us actually how to teach also, and how to impact also, right? So all the while we are being told very practical lessons, and also we are learning such a beautiful way of conveying a message. Like, if you give just like a Quran, the whole, if you look at just the commands in the Quran and prohibitions in the Quran, they could fit in 2 pages, right? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us everything so beautifully. Sometimes he gives like the lessons from the past, the history. Sometimes he makes us look at some things around us, in the universe around us, what is happening. Sometimes he tells us to look at the trees and the birds and the things. And sometimes he looks at, he makes us look at the happenings in our own lives. Sometimes he makes us contemplate over things. Like, sometimes he gives us general lessons. So different ways Allah Ta'ala teaches us, right? So here he's teaching us that the core way of victory is iman, in kuntum mu'minin, if you are believers. And the previous people, they understood this. That's why Bilal and Sumayya, when they were put through so much hardships that we can't even like think of them, and like being put in the hot sun, and with no shirt on the desert heat, and then a huge burning stone would be put on his chest, and they would say, okay, now say that you don't believe in Allah. And he would keep saying, no, I believe in Allah, I believe in Allah, I believe in Allah. They would torture him, like physically torture him, and that we just listen to those tortures and we feel like, how could somebody bear them, right? Or we unfortunately today we see around the world at some certain places things are happening, and then we see that and be like, how are people able to bear all this pain and yet stay positive and everything? Why were they positive? And how can people today also, when they're bearing so much pain, how can they still be positive? Because they understood the purpose and they understood the promise of Allah that you will be superior if you are believers, right? So for example, and we have when we have a bigger aim in mind and we're working towards it, then the small setbacks on the way don't hurt so much. And just as an example, again, there's no example for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but just for us to understand, let's say I have some guests coming over in my house. Like there's somebody that I've been waiting to meet for a long time. I love this person so much. It's like either my mom who was visiting me after a long time, or my friend who's like a very, very dear friend who's visiting for the first time. And I'm like cooking like so many things. I'm like, I just want them to have a good time at my house and this and that. Like, and I'm like planning the meals for so long and everything. And while cooking, and I just want them to have a good time and everything. While cooking, what happens is, let's say my hand gets burnt, like from the side of the pan or something, or let's say a cut happens, like, but I don't bother. Like what I do is I just wash my hand and I just start cooking again. I'm like, okay, like the purpose I have is like, okay, this is a little bit of a cut or here or a pain. It does hurt, but it, in the bigger scheme of things, it's not such a big deal because like I'm focused on what I'm trying to do, who I'm trying to please, right? So when we are running for the sake of Jannah, when we have faith, when we are running to for the pleasure of God, right? When we are learning to, when our purpose is to meet God one day and to please Him, that He be pleased with us, right? Then these little setbacks that come on the way, it will not shake us to the core, right? It will impact us a little bit, but then we'll be able to get up again, right? So what is happening? What is Allah Ta'ala doing in this? He's training the Muslims for the next few years that are going to happen after, right? So, and what we've seen that in history too, when the Muslims of before us, they have been following this principle of keeping their iman strong, right? Then they have been victorious, right? But today, unfortunately, we have all kinds of things. May Allah Ta'ala make our iman strong and make us of those people who are strong in our iman and everything, right? And then in the next ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that if a wound has touched you, then certainly a wound has touched the other people too, right? It has happened. So what is Allah Ta'ala saying? Okay, this happened. Yes, it is. This has happened, but you know what? That the other people, they had they had wounds too, right? In Badr, their 70 people had died too, and you had taken more prisoners as well, right? So there the people had died and you had taken prisoners as well, right? And also, if you think about it, whatever they got hurt and you got hurt, right? Both of you got hurt, but if you look at yourself, even though you got hurt, even though your people passed away or something happened, you have expectations from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? When people are working on the path of kufr and they're working on the path of shaitan and everything, they are putting all their efforts in that way. That also requires efforts. They're putting their money, their hard work, their manpower. They're putting it towards that too. But they have nothing to look forward to after that, right? If any of their people pass away or something, they have nothing to look after. Like Umar radiallahu anhu remarked to Abu Sufyan after the Battle of Uhud when he was boasting. When Abu Sufyan was after the Battle of Uhud, he was boasting to the Muslims, okay, this is for the Badr. You killed ours and we killed yours, so we are equal now. And what did Umar radiallahu anhu reply? No, we are not equal because our martyrs today, they are in paradise while yours are in Jahannam. So we are not equal. It might be the same number of people who have passed away in this world. It might look equal to you in this, in your limited sight, but they're not equal. Right? Even though our people have passed away, but it's not a loss for us, right? But like Abu Huraira used to say, radiallahu anhu, when he would go on a battle or something, he's like, okay, yeah, Abu Huraira, what is going to happen? Either you will die when you go there, and if you die, then people are going to say that you are a shaheed, you're a martyr. And if you come back, you'll be victorious. So a believer never has anything to lose, right? And everything. And also here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, al-ayyam, meaning the plural of days, that these are the days. We alternate them. So the days here is referring to the historical days and events in which like victories and defeats happen to different people. in different nations, right? Like sometimes one nation is victorious, sometimes the other, and good and bad days have always come to all people. They always come to all people. It's the way of life. They come to all people, right? So just as a side point, one thing also here is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves the believers, yes, but even those who are not believers, even they have been created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has love even for them. They got hurt too. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't want them to get hurt either. Like, but they were in the path of kufr and everything. They did it to themselves. They did it to themselves by doing wrong and oppression and everything, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not want, and we can understand this like this. Like, let's say a mother has many children, right? And no matter how different children are, different children have different personality, she has love for all of them, right? But somebody, one of the child is like really well mannered, he or she takes care of the mother so much, and they are like they're very obedient, and they are like very kind, they take care of her and everything. They take end up taking a lot more love from the parent, from the mother, right? And a little more softness happens for that child, right? But another one, let's say, like troubles the mom so much, is very disobedient, doesn't listen, everything goes, everything. But a mother still has like, yes, like he wouldn't get so much, like she would not, he would not warm her heart, he would not please her. But yet, just because he is her child, she would still not want harm for him, right? As well. And again, there is no example for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but like humans, it helps us to understand every person, whether believer or non-believer, is a creation of Allah. And they are surviving by some rahmah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If Allah wants, none of us can breathe. Like we need so much just to exist. We need so much, like the air around us has to be the right pressure, the right composition. The earth has to have the exact gravity. The distance of earth from the sun has to be the exact. The tilt of the earth has to be exact. There's so many factors for just me to stay alive for the next 5 minutes, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is making it happen for not just me, but even for those who disobey him. Right. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying a wound happened to those people too. Right. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves them too, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has rahmah for them too. But they are like, they're closing their doors on themselves. They're doing dhulm on themselves. But it also shows that even those who are away from the deen of Allah, or even those who don't even believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or even those who say that God doesn't exist or anything, God loves even them who say that God doesn't exist, right? Who could be so loving and so caring, right? So what, and then what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying is, so what if a hardship has come on you? You know, you are on the path towards Jannah, and Jannah does not, you don't get paradise so easily. It's not such so cheap that you just get it, right? You'll have to work for it, right? And now Allah Ta'ala is teaching us, why do battles happen? Why? And he's going to tell us that in this ayah and the next ayah, right? What did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want to prove with these battles and victories and defeats, that are the days that are alternating and everything? What are the reasons? Why do these battles happen? First point is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to see which one of you actually believes. Yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already knows. Yes, he knows, but he wants to actually see, like when Allah says that, so that he might know, uh, or he might make evident that those who believe, right? So some people might say, but Allah already knows, right? He knows the future, he knows the past and everything. So what does it mean by that? So that Allah might know. Doesn't he already know? Of course he already knows, right? One opinion here is that the word awliya is hidden here, meaning like, so that Allah might make evident, meaning so that the people of Allah might know, right? That who are believers. So when these things happen, when these fitna happen, when these wars happen, when these battles happen, then a lot of masks on people's faces start to fall off. A lot of people that we used to look up to, we start to find that they are actually not genuine. Like when they had gone out for Uhud, if they hadn't gone out for Uhud, they would not have known there are hypocrites amongst them. But when they had gone out for this battle, a lot of people, and that's true in any case, right? When any hardships come, then we actually find out who our true friends are. Before that, I used to, let's say, feel that, okay, this one is my really good friend. But when some hard time came on me, then this person was just nowhere to be found. When I'm like everything is in ease and everything, like this person like wants to hang out with me every day, they're calling me and they want to visit me, they want to spend time with me and everything. As soon as when I have money, when I have like resources and everything, as soon as I run out of money or I'm in some sort of hardships, I'm like, okay, I thought this would be the first person to stand next to me, but this person's like nowhere to be found, right? So when some hard time comes, then we get to know who are the real people with us, right? Same with Iman. When some hard time comes, then we know who actually has Iman, right? So that's how we come to know. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to know, wants the people of Allah, He wants us to know, He wants the believers to know who other are the other believers. When we see the believers and their behavior, we understand that these people actually believe in God. Their belief in God is making them be so strong, be so resilient, be so hopeful, be so thankful, even in terms of even in times of adversity, even in times of hardships, they're still saying Alhamdulillah. Even they're being killed, they're being like tortured, and they're still saying Alhamdulillah. They're not like complaining, and they're like, so Allah Ta'ala wants to see who behaves like what. When a hardship comes, do you just become like, why is Allah doing this to me? Like I pray and I fast, so why is this happening to me? Like do I get like when difficult and disappointing and devastating events happen in life, and they will happen in every single person's life in one way or the other. It is going to happen. This life is a test, right? Different kinds of tests, different tests for different people, but every person will be tested. The best people here were not spared, right? The best of the people, they were not being spared. Like the most difficulties, as we know, came on prophets, then on believers, and then less on less believers. And so the higher our faith is, the more difficulties actually we see, because then we have a chance to prove ourselves, right? So sometimes, we hear people saying that, if Islam was the true deen, are you sure Islam is the true deen? Because like, like why do the hardships come on Muslims then? Like, like why is it like becoming hard for Muslims if Islam is the true faith and everything? But see, that's not the criteria at all. If that was the criteria, then the prophets would never have been pricked by even a thorn, right? All groups of people, all nations, everybody experiences both defeat and success. And this is according to the divine law and wisdom, right? This happens, and this is a law laid down by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this test sorts out the good from the evil, the faithful from the sincere, the faithful and the sincere from the false and the treacherous and everything. They're all separated by this. When these wars, these things happen, these battles happen, then it's like there was a lot of gray area, but the black and white starts to divide. You start to see in the society, in people, and everything, what is what. You start to see the reality. It kind of separates it. Before that, everybody was seems a bit equal, right? And so this is what happens, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sorts things out. Another things that scholars have explained is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's ilm is of two kinds, right? One is that such and such will happen in the future, whether it's individual or collective. Like when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows everything, what I'm going to do tomorrow, what I'm going to do day after tomorrow, what is going to happen on the day of judgment, when am I going to die, when I'm going to be raised up, what events are going to happen when, right? And what kind of things will get what kind of punishment, and what kind of things will get what kind of rewards. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows everything, right? We know that, right? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put some ilm um, in curtains, right? Like it's hidden from other people. It's in the ghaib. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows both ghaib and both what is evident. But we don't know what is in the unseen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what is in the unseen and what is in the seen, both. But when he says that so that Allah might make might know, meaning what he might make evident. Ilme zuhur means that something which is brought to the front. Like again, a silly example, but again, just to help us. Let's say I have guests coming over to my house, and I've prepared a lot of food and everything, and I've laid the table, I've arranged it on the table and everything, and it's all like but it's all in the other room, and it's all covered with like everything, because like when it's time to and then what happens is I know what I have cooked. It's all ready, it's all there, right? But it's all covered and everything, and when it's time to eat, then the guests get up, then I like reveal it all, like then I remove the cover from it, and it's all revealed. Okay, what is I knew what was there before, right? So one way is this, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what is inside every person. He knows like how much iman who has, but through these tests, through these wars, through these hardships, through these adversities, he brings out in the open, so that everybody can see that like who has iman and who doesn't, right? So this makes so that this makes the believers prominent and dominant, like they become, it becomes clear, they becomes clear. The second thing that this does is he gives, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can take martyrs from your ranks to himself. So he can take the shuhada for himself, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to give some of us the status of shaheed, right? And if the battles were not happening, if the wars would not happen, then how would some believers rise to that level of being shaheed, right? Every Muslim craves for this status, although many of us might be scared for it as well at the same time, right? So what is a shaheed? Shuhada, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying here, right? Like, so that he can take from you shuhada. What is shuhada? To be a shaheed, shahada literally means to bear witness, to take witness. Like when we become Muslim, we say the shahada, la ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. I witness that. I give testimony to that, and I have made witness, right? But a shaheed is somebody who gives witness to this reality of Islam by even laying down their own life. They give up their life for the sake of this. That person is called shaheed. Not everybody shaheed, obviously. A few people are. And those few people are called shuhada because they fulfill the collective obligation of the Muslim community of bearing witness to the truth by sacrificing their life for its cause, right? So all of us, when we bear witness that okay, this is when we take the shahada, we bear witness, we sacrifice something, right? We sacrifice, sometimes we sacrifice, okay, if I'm going to, let's say, wear hijab in a place where people don't look up to people who wear hijab, they're looked a bit down upon. I'm sacrificing my respect a little bit because I know people are going to look at me funny, right? When I'm eating only halal food and I'm not eating what is not halal and everything, I'm sacrificing on something that I might have been eating before I became a Muslim, and I'm like, okay, no, I can't eat that anymore, or like I can't drink alcohol anymore, or I can't have a relationship like this anymore. Like to have a be in a romantic sort of relationship, I want to be married. I don't want to have like a, I don't want to continue in a relationship like without marriage. I want to get married, and that's the better way of doing things, right? And everything that we are committed to each other, that we are not just like it's not just without any commitment towards each other, and we have a commitment and we make allow our witness towards this relationship. I want a better thing, right? So I'm sacrificing something. I'm sacrificing like this current way of life of the society that is like have no commitment, be just free with this person and then with another person and then another person. No, I want a stable sort of thing. I'm sacrificing something for something else, right? So, and everybody is sacrificing something, but what a shaheed does, what a martyr does is they've sacrificed the ultimate, they've sacrificed their own life for the sake of Islam, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to prove to Allah, that, Ya Allah, I love you more than my own life, right? And they've actually literally proved it, right? They have been witness to it, and that's why they're called a shaheed. And it's a very high rank in Islam. Of course, this is not for everybody. It's not meant for everybody. It's not an ask from everybody either, right? But it's a very high rank, and early Muslims, they were infused with this intense desire for martyrdom. They really wanted that station. But of course, like you cannot, suicide is never allowed in Islam. To even wish for death is not allowed in Islam. But what they would do is they would wish for, whenever it's time for me to die, Allah, take me like that, right? That so they vied with each other literally in seeking this high status of bearing witness to the truth, and and through these wars that happened, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provided them with special opportunity to satisfy their noble aspirations, to satisfy their heart's desires. They wanted to be shaheed. They wanted to be martyred in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted them that opportunity through this, right? So again, what we are learning here is the approach, the the mentality, the attitude of a believer is that when something happens and if it didn't work out in the way that we were thinking it will work out, we don't keep like, we don't keep crying about it. Like, yes, we get sad for a little bit, and, but we don't get like all negative about it and we're like, oh my God, the life is over. We don't like, okay, everything's doomed to defeat and failure permanently now and this and that. We look for khair in it. We look for the The attitude of a believer is you always look for khair in it. No matter what happens, we say Alhamdulillah, ala kulli hal. Praise and thanks to Allah on every situation. No matter what is there, there is some khair in it. There is some good in it. Even if I can't see it, there is some good in it. It is so hard for me to see good in this, but there is good in it because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has willed it to happen. There is some good in it, right? So this is like even when somebody dies, there's khair in it. The things that are seeming bad and everything, there is khair in it. When someone hurts our feelings, for example, there's khair in it because our ranks got ahead. We got an opportunity to have sabr, to show Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala our sabr. Like we got humility inside us, right? Our pride got broken a little bit, right? So even being sometimes when we are insulted a little bit, even there might be hair in it for us because it might just break our pride, make us more humble people, make us, even if it is wrong, what the other person's saying, even if their lies made up against us, we have the opportunity for sabr and we get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that way, right? And we all want to get closer and closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And such people then um, become the kind of people who can work more and more for the sake of Allah. So through these situations, what is Allah Ta'ala doing? He's training people, and he's giving some people very high statuses. And then through these days, he's showing who are actually believers and who are not. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not like those who do dhulm. And what is dhulm? Dhulm is to take something and put it where it does not belong, right? So let's say I borrowed a piece of jewelry from my friend, and I said, okay, it belongs to her. I need to give it back to her after, let's say, 2 days. And after 2 days I finish, instead of giving it to her, I say, oh, you know what? My daughter loved it so much, I just give it to her. So sorry, you're not getting it back. That is dhulm. It didn't belong to my daughter. It belonged to my friend. I had to give it back to her. It was not mine. She had given it to me. She had gifted it to me for a little bit. She had allowed me to use it for a little bit, but it belonged to her. I needed to give it back to her. When I don't give it back to her and I give it to somebody else, I'm doing dhulm, right? Worship belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. When we don't worship him or we worship somebody or something else, then we are doing dhulm on ourselves. It doesn't make any difference to God whether we worship him or not. He does not need any of us. He does the one who created the sun and the moon and the earth and the atmosphere and the whole outer space and every single creation, including the creation in the sea that we don't even know about, including all the birds that fly, including all the trees that are there in the world. Every single leaf in the world has a different pattern to it. Every single human being has different fingertips and a retina scan, right? And he created all of them. Will it make any difference to him if I worship him or not? It makes no difference to him whether all mankind worships him or all of them to the best of their ability or all of them stop worshiping him at all. When we do something wrong, we hurt ourselves and our own chances to get to Jannah or to please him, right? So what we can do is anybody who's being oppressed, what's happening is they are, if they're on the right, if they have iman, then what is happening is even though they're being oppressed, they are still getting rewards for it. There is goodness in it for them. But the person who's doing wrong, they might seem to be getting a lot in terms of worldly sense, but there is no good for them because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not love people who do wrong. Right? So even though what are believers being told that even though the other side, it might seem like they got with money and they got like this and this time, but that doesn't have any hair in it. You might have lost all these people who have been martyrs and everything, but your martyrs are at a good place. Alhamdulillah, they're at a good place. And for you as well, you have all these lessons. Yes, some mistakes happened, but learn from them and get up. It's okay. It's not all lost and everything. You are not, this is not the end of the world, right? All the things that have happened, right? But now go ahead and move ahead, right? On the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows everything, but he's not going to just give paradise or hellfire to people just based on his own knowledge. He will actually prove it to everybody, right? He'll prove it to everybody through the tests that he subjected human beings to and who did what. We are all witnesses to what's happening around us, right? And we are all witnesses. Who's doing the oppression, who's being oppressed, and Allah Ta'ala will make it clear to us. And we will all testify for different things, right? And Iman gets established and it gets shaken up. People of faith are shaken up. We get shaken up in this life, and that will happen, can and will happen. But when we get really shaken up, that will be an opportunity for us to prove ourselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ya Allah, in my heart there is iman. In my heart, no matter what anybody does to me outside, my heart is yours and yours alone. Right, my in my heart is you, and I and any love that we have for anybody, we have to prove it. So we have to prove our love to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. And just to conclude, what Allah in this world, it is the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is the sunnah of Allah. It is the practice. It is the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It has been, and it is, and it will be as well, that He causes the days to alternate. He causes the hardship to come, and there is ease some days and hardship some days. There's pain sometimes and there's comfort sometimes. There is suffering sometimes and there's a peace sometimes. And they occur between different people at different times. These alternate, right? At different times between different people, right? And if for some reason somebody who has wrong intentions, somebody who's a zalim, somebody who is falsely motivated, they get some power and they succeed in getting some short-lived upper hand, right? Then what should happen? Then the group who's motivated by the truth, the other group who seems to be oppressed, but they're motivated by the truth, they should not lose heart and start thinking as if they're always doomed to nothing but defeat. That's not true. Because what is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promising? Wallahu la yuhibbul dhalimin. Whoever Allah does not love, then what is left for them? Right? So instead of having any negative attitude, what you're learning is find out the causes of defeat, what happened, and try to find out. Then once you find them out, take corrective measures and eliminate all the possibilities of repeating the mistakes, whatever mistakes that have happened. Try to get over them. Like, for example, even in a match, what happens? Let's say a football match or any other match, what happens? Both teams make some goals to each other. Both teams get hurt and everything. But what happens finally? The final victory is the real victory. Like, it doesn't matter if one team was losing for the first half of the match and everything, and until the last, 5-10 minutes were left, they looked like they were losing. But then the last 10 minutes, they score like this, and they win. Finally, who wins, right? So in the end, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, in the end, the group motivated by the truth, they will be the ultimate victors. The person who have iman, they will be the victors, and Allah does not love the zalimun. May Allah Ta'ala make us of the people who have iman, who stick to the iman. Ya muqallib al-qulub, thabbit qalbi ala dinik. Oh Allah, oh my Lord, oh Rabb, you are the one who controls the hearts. Keep our hearts firm on your belief. And if we go here and there, just turn our hearts. You're the one who turns the hearts. Turn our hearts towards your obedience and make it stick to your belief and to your obedience. Don't make us of the zalim. Don't make us of the people who oppress anybody or be oppressed by anybody. Make us of the people who are truthful to you. Make us of the people who are sincere to you. Make us of the people who love you and who gain your love, Ya Allah. And Ya Allah, be pleased with us and give us the stations in the paradise that we want, and give us to them with afiyah. Don't test us with things that we do not have the ability to bear. Grant us those tests that we can, only those tests that we can pass easily and pass with flying colors, Ya Rab. And any good that has come out today is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's the owner of all good. All goodness comes from him. And any shortcomings, any mistakes are mine and mine alone, because I'm human and open to mistakes. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala still accept it from me and from anybody who comes and listens today or any time in the future. May Allah Ta'ala make this a means of increasing our iman and keep us firm on our iman of all kinds. May Allah Ta'ala make us His beloved and keep Him as our beloved in our hearts forever. The core of our hearts, may Allah Ta'ala keep Himself in the core of our hearts always. Ameen ya Rahman Rahimeen. Subhanakallahumma ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.